I'm Jay Kingley, co-founder and CEO of Maven, your host of Fractionals Unplugged. I'm joined today by Tom Dillon of Frac Finance. Tom is a fractional CFO who works with SaaS e-commerce, wealth management, and sweaty startups from 1 to 25 million in revenue. Whoa, we got to take a little time out here. Tom, what is a sweaty startup? I got to tell you, it sounds like me after I come back from the gym, but I'm guessing it means something a little bit different. Please enlighten us.
Hey Jay, pleasure to be here. Sweaty startups are the companies that are in the trades. You could think of them as everyone that's going to be touching the home services that might come and fix your roof, electric, plumbing, etc., or commercial real estate. Those are what we define as the sweaty startups.
Well, I'm down here in the Miami, Florida area, and I will say, particularly in summertime, it is sweaty. But Tom is based in Chicago, Illinois, where it isn't always so sunny. Welcome, Tom, to the show.
Waiting my entire life to be here. It is a pleasure.
Thank you, Tom. I hear that all the time.
Are you feeling undervalued and stuck in the frustrating cycle of an inconsistent pipeline and income, despite consistently delivering exceptional results for your clients? Maven's proven 97% done-for-you client acquisition system transforms your expertise into a steady income of $300,000 to $500,000 a year, providing lasting financial security and establishing you as the go-to resource for your clients' toughest challenges. Join Jay Kingley, CEO of Maven, and his guests as they share actionable insights on today's episode of the Fractionals Unplugged podcast.
All right, let's get serious. Tom, when you first meet a potential prospect, it's important for you to give them some context on you so they know how to tell you about their issues and challenges. I'm going to give you a maximum of 60 seconds to give just enough context so that our audience understands where you are coming from. Go!
So the way to think about us are fractional CFOs or corporate finance advisory. We have 3 core services that you can probably identify as an SMB owner. If you're buying a business, we'll do the quality of earnings, the QOE. That's the financial due diligence, make sure there's no fraud, the company you're buying. And then we have fractional CFO work, which if you're growing your business, we'll help you with that. And then if you're selling a business, we have our sell-side advisory. So we really look at the full life cycle of an SMB owner. And we differentiate ourselves because we look at both organic and inorganic growth, meaning growth through acquisition.
So if I think about your types of industries you work with, SaaS, e-commerce, wealth management, and those sweaty startups in the 1 to 25 million range, what are the issues? What are the challenges that you see that they struggle with?
They are really struggling with their cash flow, having an understanding of the ins and outs of that cash. And a lot of these individuals are looking at the bank account and they use that as the proxy. But what they don't really have an understanding of is what's coming down the pipeline, what's going to be coming in order to pay what needs to go out. And so a lot of that, what we call working capital, is a massive issue. It hurts these business owners when they don't have an understanding of it because they really can't budget accordingly for allocation of resources for a new hire or spending more on marketing so that they can grow faster.
Now, if you take the challenges that these companies struggle with, and if I ask you to boil it down to the one thing that you think is the most important, urgent, and valuable problem that your ideal client profiles, those industries, what is that one thing that they are most struggling to resolve?
Blind growth is really where a lot of the struggles we see. And when there becomes a focus on the sales and marketing aspects of the business with financial responsibility, we can't just be throwing money out and hoping that we get a return. We need to track and actually methodically have a plan in place that's going to absolutely guarantee that return.
So what surprises me a little bit is I think most business owners, when they think of revenue, are thinking about sales and marketing. I'm not sure that finance is a top of mind thing when it comes to revenue. So can you elaborate a little bit more about what the role of finance is to make sure that the sales and marketing team is optimizing their efforts?
what they should be doing is tying in what their sales and marketing KPIs, which are key performance indicators. These are the metrics that you really base your performance. Are we headed in the right direction or the wrong direction? They're your barometer of success. And building out a forecast model with those items in mind. And that is what's going to really allow these business owners to be able to invest more in their people, invest more in their businesses for them to grow faster. And so without having those indications on the sales and marketing side of where are we at? Do I have a finger on the pulse of the health of my business? Then you really don't have a good way of determining how successful you're going to be in the next 3-6 months. And so we see a lot of these business owners not do that, and that's what they should be doing.
There's that old trite saying, you can't manage what you don't measure. And I think everyone nods their head, but where companies struggle is how do I take that high level statement and translate it and execute it so we can get the results that you are talking about. Now, I call this the most important, urgent, and valuable problem that your clients tend to have. Why is this the critical thing that they need to figure out how they are going to resolve? In other words, what outcomes do they want, but they can't get because they've yet to resolve this issue?
Jay, have you ever drove your car looking in the rear view mirror? Unless you're going backwards.
Well
Which
said.
in business, we don't want to do. We want to grow and go forward. And so that's the critical component. It's looking at through the windshield and seeing what's coming at you. And getting these business owners that do it successfully, and what they should be doing is looking through the windshield and thinking about what's going to be coming down the road. And so that all is encompassing of not only cost and resource allocation of the cash coming in, who can I hire so that we can alleviate part of our team member to go take on another task or help our company grow in that capacity. And that is going to be requiring having an understanding of how of those top of funnel KPIs are going to flow down through the rest of your P&L, your income statement. And so within all that, it's the week to week, because most people get their bookkeeping, they close their books and they get their statements and they go, okay, we did pretty good last month. But if you said, how are we going to pan out this month? Well, Tim and Sally said that we were going to be doing pretty good. What does pretty good mean? That could be very, very broad to a lot of different people, probably different between Tim and Sally. And so when you're measuring those aspects, you can get a better grasp on your cash flow and you'll know exactly where you're going to come in for that next month. And you're going to be able to invest that money that you know is coming in, or maybe sometimes it's not. There are tight crunches at times where we have to prepare accordingly. Maybe there's a line of credit that needs to be in place with certain businesses where they need a little sway in how they operate so they can make payroll perfectly fine as long as it's done in a responsible way. But we need to make sure that we can go and take those dollars and wisely invest them back in the business and say, what's the return on those dollars going to look like? How does that help us as an organization pay our people more or invest back into the growth of the company so that we can continue to expand our team?
Well, we know that what Tim and Sally normally mean when they say pretty good is that you're going to keep us on the payroll for another month. And that's probably not what the CEO is thinking about when he wants to drive the business in the right way. Now, as I like to call this is the important, urgent, and valuable problem. The urgency part says they are trying to figure this out. They are trying to resolve this key issue. But what you and I know is that whatever they're doing, it isn't working. So what are the things that you typically see companies doing in an attempt to resolve this problem? And why don't these things typically work?
A lot of times they'll hire marketing agencies or sales agencies that they're hoping have a silver bullet. What's this next best ad or design copy that's going to win the race of beating out our competition and earning this revenue? Also see throwing more people at a problem, but we're just going to hire another person that we can extrapolate these sales. It's not the market or our messaging. It's really going to be if we have more people, more phone calls going out, more ads going out, more meetings. That doesn't translate. it needs to be a little bit more methodical. We need to get at the heart of the issue. Why isn't this person at capacity or industry standard? Is it them? Is it us? Is it product service? And so there's just a little bit more meat on the bone that needs to be gnawed on and really kind of chewed and thought about, rather than just trying to solve them in some of the traditional manners of what we see most business owners taking upon themselves to do.
So your insight into the root cause that's driving this key problem. And it's either typically one of two things. Sometimes it's a combination. Sometimes clients just don't understand what the real problem is. They see the symptom, but they don't understand the cause. And so they're busy dealing with symptoms. Sometimes they think they know the cause, but they're misinformed. So what is it from your perspective that's really going on here?
What I think is really going on is a leadership issue among the department heads, if you will. And if there's not department heads, and what I mean by that, let's say there's a head of ops, there's a sales and marketing person, they're not having the leadership that's extracting the information from them to understand exactly where the business is at and having that finger on the pulse and also guiding them to it, and asking them for budgets and expectations and having those recurring meetings of where we're at and where we think we're at relative to budget. I think it starts at the beginning of the year, but it has to be that routine hygiene within the organization.
If your ICPs, if these industries that you work with understood this underlying cause that you've talked about, what are the things that they would do differently to, as I like to say, get out of struggle city and get into success city?
So what I would do is day one, figure out exactly where our marketing and sales budgets, calendars, KPIs, the revenue drivers of the business. Where are those and how are we tracking them? The business owner should go and ask their department heads where is that information living if they don't know, and have a level of transparency around it and formulate a budget and forecast around those figures. So what's driving our business? What's our North Star KPI that has the biggest impact? Sure, there's different levers within your sales and marketing funnel that are going to affect that North Star KPI, but let's not overcomplicate it for the team and feel like they're now being, monitored to ad nauseum. Let's just get in there, get a North Star KPI. What's going to move the needle, the most important figure? And start tracking those budgets. Do you have an event calendar? Are you B2B and are you out there having to go to trade shows or conferences? Do we have an event calendar that we're absolutely all on the same page with regards to what are the expectations are and how it impacts sales? From there, I really want to talk to my department heads about resource management. If we do grow 20%, do we need any more bodies? Do we need any more heads? What's going to break down? And building into their own kind of department level P&Ls of understanding what those costs are associated with growth, and making sure that we budget accordingly so that we can make payroll, we can make that additional investment into our marketing or our extra salesperson to grow top line, but responsibly so that we don't have any working capital cash. When I say working capital cash crunch, where, oh my gosh, how are we going to make payroll or pay this vendor? And so that would be, I think, the best thing they could do is really getting a grasp on having people not only put together kind of where their expectations are, what they're tracking, but be transparent about it and report it to the appropriate person so that everyone's on the same page and that there can be an idea of what that windshield and what's coming down the road, rather than looking in the rearview mirror at just here's our closed financials from last month. We had a great month, or maybe we didn't do so hot. But that is going to be, I think, the best thing you can do to really get a grasp on what does future cash flow look like.
Tom, very insightful, well articulated. And we are going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to learn a bit more about Tom.
Is your pipeline inconsistent and rarely full? Do you struggle to stand out and communicate your unique value? The lead generation you've done or had others do for you has largely been a waste of time and money. You're stressed out and feeling guilty, worried that you're not living up to your own expectations or supporting those who matter most to you. Maven offers the only 97% done-for-you client acquisition service trusted by top fractional executives and consultants. Our proven system takes care of your go-to-market strategy, lead generation, and sales, turning your expertise into a full pipeline and a high-converting sales process. With Maven, you'll achieve a predictable income, financial security, and the confidence you'll never have to take a job working for someone else. Contact j.kingley at fractionalmaven.com to discover how Maven can help you build a thriving business working with clients who value your insights and are a joy to work with.
Welcome back. We're talking to Tom Dillon, a fractional CFO who works with SaaS e-commerce wealth management and my favorite vertical, the sweaty startups, from 1 to 25 million in revenue. Tom, let's find out a bit more about you. And I love to start with this question. What happened in your life, be it personal or professional, that most explains why you're doing what you do today?
That takes us all the way back to senior year of high school. So I tripped and fell on success with working for a company called Vector Marketing, which for everyone that has worked there, they know that's Cutco Cutlery, selling knives. Did really well. Probably a byproduct of my community that loved and supported me, and ultimately made good money for an 18-year-old. So I was sitting on maybe 22 grand and went to my dad and said, hey, I want to do something with this. I said, all right, I might be able to set up a meeting with our wealth manager. And at the time it was with Citibank. His name was Chris Crawley. And he taught me the rule of 72. And that is, if you divide an interest rate into it, you figure out how long it takes, how many years it takes to double your money. And so right then and there, finance was, absolutely where I was running towards in my life. I thought it was so fascinating, and just seeing all the tickers and everything on the screen, I knew finance definitely was the life for me. And that's why.
So to all parents out there, if you want your child to have a career in finance, get them selling door to door right now. I love that story. Well, let's see if you can top it with your answer to this one. What's one thing that few people know about you that if they did know, they would be surprised?
Hey, I'm a pretty open book, so that one's kind of tough. I'm going to search really hard for that, I guess. And I mean, this is not that cool or fun of a story, but one of my buddies invited me to go on a hiking trip. And I decided that sounds great, get out into the woods. And it was kind of an end of COVID, need to get back out there. And I failed to read the email in detail, which is unlike me. And about a week before the trip, my friend Mario said, are you all ready? You've been training hard? Training hard for what? I thought he was joking. I went back, I read the email as I was supposed to do. And I realized that we are about to summit a 14er. So some of the highest mountains in the world. So we went out to Estes Park, and we were set to go do Long's Peak. So the week before, I start going to the gym with a backpack on. I buy my boots. I'm a novice. Like, I should not be out there. And I, that week prep, I'm feeling decently well. I'm climbing stairs. I'm thinking this is going to be great. And so risk is adverse as I am, in a profession where I talk to a lot of my clients. That might surprise people that I was that ill prepared and taking that big of a risk. I actually tore my labrum in my hip. And so, next week when we're meeting, I am actually going to be going to PT for that still.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now I understand why you've given up mountaineering for golf. That now tells the tale. So, Tom, what's next for you over the coming 12 months?
It's a good question. These last 6 months, and maybe if I back up for a second before then, I've been doing this for about 11 years. And ultimately, what I realized was that there's one, a capacity issue in terms of my bandwidth, and then two, there's certainly going to be an issue if there was any desire to sell the company. So there wasn't a transferable asset. This is me being a 1099 and working with great clients and adding a lot of value to them. It's wonderful. It was a great feeling, good cash flow. But those two aspects of burnout and transferability really resonated with me. And I wanted to make sure that I was building something that potentially could secure a financial future for my family. So 2 years ago, we really branded the company and started working towards building out a team. And so for the last 6 months, we've been really building out the team and investing in our own sales and marketing and tracking those things accordingly. But we've been what we call J-curving the business model. Before you're investing in your company, your people, and it's one of the hardest things to do in business, hire ahead of growth. And so for the next 6 months, we'll continue doing just that. Had a nice conversation with my wife about margin, and I was like, think cash flow. We're going to cut that in half. That really made her learn very quickly the different margins that I was speaking about. So that's what we're going to be doing the next 6 months. And over the next 12 months, we're just going to continue focusing in on our clients and focusing in on building a phenomenal team. I think our big focus is really building and developing that pool of talent.
Outstanding. So I'm sure we've got people in the audience who are thinking, Tom is someone that I should be talking to. So what's the best way for our audience to connect with you?
Tom at fracfinance.com.
And I'll drop that in the show notes. Make it super easy. Everyone can just copy and paste and reach out to Tom, engage him. You will not be disappointed. Tom, I want to thank you for being a guest on our Fractionals Unplugged show. Be sure to subscribe to both our podcast on all the major platforms and our YouTube channel for our videos. Use the power of your one big idea to differentiate you from everyone else who does what you do. Enjoy a pipeline consistently filled with clients you want to work with who value what you do. Choose the freedom, flexibility, and control that comes from having your own fractional or consulting business, and enjoy being financially secure and professionally fulfilled. Until next time.